The security camera footage shows everything. A billionaire discovering his maid sleeping on the cold marble floor next to his baby's crib at 3 a.m. What you're about to see will change everything you think you know about loyalty, sacrifice, and what happens when two different worlds collide in the most unexpected way. Daniel Prescott adjusts his silk tie as he strides through the marble foyer of his Beverly Hills mansion, the sound of his Italian leather shoes echoing against the vaulted ceilings. At 38, he's built a tech empire worth billions, but tonight, something feels different. The house seems quieter than usual, almost eerily so. "Amelia," he calls out, his voice carrying through the expansive hallway lined with original Picassos and Monets. No response. Amelia Carter pauses in the kitchen, her hands deep in soapy dishwater, pretending she didn't hear him. At 26, she's been working for the Prescott family for 8 months now, and she's learned that sometimes it's better to stay invisible. Her dark hair is pulled back in a practical bun, and her simple black uniform shows the wear of 14-hour days. "There you are," Daniel says, appearing in the kitchen doorway. "Have you seen my wife? She was supposed to be back from the charity gala by now." Amelia keeps her eyes focused on the crystal wine glasses she's washing. "Mrs. Prescott called around 10. She's staying at her sister's place in Malibu tonight. Something about the drive being too long." Daniel's jaw tightens slightly. It's the third time this month Margaret has stayed away overnight. And little Emma? Has she been fussy? She went down around 8:30. "No problems at all, Mr. Prescott." Amelia's voice is soft but steady. She's noticed how Daniel's shoulders seem to carry more weight these days, how he stays later at the office, how he sometimes just stands in Emma's nursery doorway watching his 6-month-old daughter sleep. "Good. Well, I'll be in my study if you need anything." Daniel starts to leave, then turns back. "Amelia? You don't have to stay so late every night. I can manage." But what he doesn't know is that Amelia has nowhere else to go. Her tiny studio apartment was flooded 2 weeks ago, and she's been too proud to tell anyone. Instead, she's been sleeping in the staff quarters break room, curled up on an old chair, catching whatever rest she can between Emma's feeding schedule. Little did Daniel know that tonight would be different. At 11 p.m., Emma starts crying. Amelia rushes to the nursery, her bare feet silent on the marble floors. The baby's face is flushed, her tiny fists clenched as she wails. "Shoo, sweet girl," Amelia whispers, lifting Emma from her crib. "What's wrong?" For the next 2 hours, Amelia walks the nursery floors, singing softly in Spanish, the lullabies her grandmother used to sing to her back in East LA. Emma finally settles around 1 a.m., but every time Amelia tries to put her down, the crying starts again. "You just want someone close, don't you?" Amelia murmurs, exhaustion weighing heavy on her eyelids. She's been up since 5 a.m., cooking, cleaning, managing the household staff, and now this. By 3 a.m., Amelia's back aches from standing and swaying. Emma sleeps peacefully in her arms, but Amelia knows the moment she moves toward the door, the baby will wake up. She's learned Emma's patterns better than anyone else in the house. This decision would change everything. Amelia carefully lowers herself to the plush nursery carpet beside Emma's crib. The floor is cold against her thin cotton uniform, but she positions herself where Emma can see her through the crib slats. Within minutes, both the baby and the exhausted maid are fast asleep. Meanwhile, Daniel tosses restlessly in his king-sized bed 3 doors down. The house feels empty without Margaret's presence, and the quarterly reports scattered across his nightstand aren't helping his insomnia. Tony Mitchell's signature on the merger documents keeps nagging at him. Something about his business partner's eagerness to close the deal doesn't sit right. At 3:17 a.m., Daniel gives up on sleep. He decides to check on Emma, a nightly ritual that brings him the only peace he finds these days. He pads barefoot down the hallway, his mind still churning over spreadsheets and corporate strategies. The nursery door is slightly ajar, and Daniel pushes it open gently, expecting to see his daughter sleeping soundly in her crib. Instead, he freezes in the doorway. There, curled up on the floor in her wrinkled uniform, is Amelia. She's positioned herself so she's facing the crib, one arm stretched toward the baby, as if even in sleep she's ready to comfort Emma at a moment's notice. Her dark hair has fallen across her face, and Daniel notices for the first time how young she looks, how vulnerable. But the real shock was still coming. As Daniel's eyes adjust to the dim nightlight glow, he sees Emma's tiny hand hanging through the crib slats, her fingers barely touching Amelia's outstretched palm. Both are sleeping peacefully, connected by this tender, unconscious gesture of trust and protection. Daniel's breath catches in his throat. In 8 months of employing Amelia, he's never really seen her not like this. Not as a person with her own struggles, her own story. She's always been efficient, professional, nearly invisible. But here, sleeping on his cold marble floor to comfort his daughter, she's revealed something that shakes him to his core. His phone buzzes in his pocket, the sound harsh in the quiet nursery. It's a text from Tony Mitchell, "Need to talk. Emergency board meeting tomorrow." It's about the Carson Industries deal. Daniel stares at the message, then at Amelia still sleeping on the floor, then back at his phone. Something is happening, something bigger than he realized, and somehow this moment, discovering his maid's extraordinary devotion to his child, feels connected to everything that's about to unravel. As he quietly backs out of the nursery, leaving Amelia and Emma undisturbed, Daniel has no idea that what he's just witnessed will become the catalyst for events that will expose corporate betrayal, challenge everything he believes about loyalty and sacrifice, and ultimately transform both their lives in ways neither of them could ever imagine. But first, he needs to wake Amelia up, and that conversation will change everything. Daniel's hand froze on the nursery door handle as his eyes adjusted to the dim moonlight filtering through the curtains. There, curled up on the hardwood floor beside little Emma's crib, was Amelia. Her uniform was wrinkled, her dark hair had escaped its neat bun, and she clutched a thin throw pillow against her chest. The sight hit him like a physical blow. "Amelia," he whispered, kneeling down beside her. She stirred, her eyes fluttering open with the startled look of someone caught in a vulnerable moment. "Mr. Prescott. I'm so sorry, No, don't apologize." Daniel's voice was gentler than she'd ever heard it. "Tell me why you're sleeping on the floor." Amelia sat up slowly, smoothing down her hair with trembling hands. Emma was sleeping peacefully in her crib above them, completely unaware of the tension filling the room. She was crying earlier. "Nothing would calm her down, and I didn't want to wake you or Mrs. Prescott. I stayed to make sure she was okay, and I guess I just..." She gestured helplessly at the floor. But Daniel wasn't buying the simple explanation. His businessman's instincts, honed by years of reading people, told him there was more to this story. "Amelia, be honest with me. Why are you really sleeping here? Don't you have somewhere to go?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. Amelia's shoulders sagged as if the weight of her secrets was finally too heavy to carry. "My landlord evicted me last week. I've been staying in my car, but it's been so cold at night, and I didn't want to be too far from Emma in case she needed me." Daniel felt something twist in his chest. This woman had been homeless, sleeping in her car, yet still showing up to work every day with a smile, caring for his daughter as if she were her own. "Why didn't you tell us? We could have helped." "With respect, Mr. Prescott, people in your world don't usually concern themselves with people in mine." There was no bitterness in her voice, just a quiet acceptance that broke Daniel's heart. "I've been saving every penny to get back on my feet. I didn't want charity." As Daniel processed this revelation, his phone buzzed with an incoming call. Tony Mitchell's name flashed on the screen, and Daniel's expression darkened. He'd been expecting this call, but the timing couldn't be worse. "I need to take this," he said to Amelia, stepping into the hallway. "Tony. Danny boy." Tony's voice boomed through the phone with fake enthusiasm. "Hope I'm not calling too late. We need to talk about the Henderson project. I've got some concerns about your management decisions." Daniel's grip tightened on the phone. Tony had been his business partner for 8 years, and lately, their relationship had become increasingly strained. There were discrepancies in the books, meetings Daniel wasn't invited to, and now this late-night call that felt more like a threat than a conversation. What kind of concerns, Tony? The kind that could sink this whole company if they're not handled properly. I think you know what I mean. The underlying menace in Tony's voice made Daniel's blood run cold. Maybe we should discuss this in person tomorrow. Bring your lawyer. The line went dead, leaving Daniel staring at his phone in the darkened hallway. When he returned to the nursery, Amelia was standing by the crib, gently stroking Emma's tiny hand through the bars. Is everything all right, Mr. Prescott? Daniel looked at this woman who had been caring for his daughter while facing her own crisis, then thought about Tony's veiled threats. The contrast was stark. Here was genuine loyalty and dedication, while his own business partner was apparently plotting against him. Amelia, I want you to know that things are going to change around here. Daniel's voice carried a weight that made her look up sharply. What I saw tonight, it's not acceptable. Not because you did anything wrong, but because I failed to see what was right in front of me. Mr. Prescott, I don't understand. You're not sleeping on floors anymore. We're going to figure this out together. Daniel moved toward the door, his mind racing with possibilities. But first, I need to deal with some business that could affect all of us. As he reached the threshold, Daniel turned back one more time. Amelia was watching him with a mixture of hope and fear, as if she'd learned not to trust good fortune when it appeared too suddenly. That's when something changed everything, and neither Daniel nor Amelia could have predicted what was about to unfold. The next morning arrives with an uncomfortable heaviness hanging in the air. Daniel finds himself pacing the marble floors of his home office, unable to concentrate on the stack of contracts waiting on his desk. Every few minutes, his thoughts drift back to the image of Amelia curled up on that cold nursery floor, her arms protectively wrapped around his son's crib. He knows he needs to apologize, but the words feel inadequate. How do you apologize for allowing someone's basic human dignity to slip through the cracks of your privileged world? When Amelia brings him his morning coffee, her movements are more reserved than usual. She sets the cup down without her typical warm smile, and Daniel catches the slight tremble in her hands. Amelia, please sit down, he says, gesturing to the leather chair across from his desk. We need to talk. She hesitates, clearly uncomfortable. Mr. Prescott, I have the laundry to fold in. The laundry can wait. His voice is gentle but firm. Please. She settles into the chair, her posture rigid with nervous energy. Daniel takes a deep breath, struggling to find the right words. I owe you an apology, he begins. A massive one. What I saw last night, it's unforgivable that you felt you had nowhere else to sleep. Amelia's eyes widen slightly. Sir, I didn't mean to overstep. You didn't overstep anything. I failed you. The admission hangs heavy between them. Tell me about your dreams, Amelia. What did you want to be before life got in the way? For a moment, something flickers across her face, a vulnerability she rarely shows. I wanted to be a teacher, she says quietly. Elementary school. I love working with children, watching them learn and grow. Her voice grows stronger. I was studying education at community college, but when my mother got sick and the medical bills piled up, I had to drop out to work full-time. Daniel feels something shift inside his chest. Here's a woman with genuine aspirations, real dreams, and she's been reduced to sleeping on floors because of circumstances beyond her control. But before he can respond, his phone buzzes with an urgent call. He glances at the screen and his blood runs cold. It's Mrs. Henderson from the exclusive Pemberton estate across town. I'm sorry, I need to take this, he tells Amelia, who nods and starts to stand. Mr. Prescott? Mrs. Henderson's crisp voice cuts through the speaker. I have a proposition for your maid, Amelia Carter. I've heard excellent things about her work ethic. Daniel's grip tightens on the phone. What kind of proposition? We're looking for live-in help. The salary is quite generous, triple what you're likely paying her. However, the position requires absolute discretion. The family has particular needs that require someone who can look the other way when necessary. The implication in her tone makes Daniel's stomach turn. He knows the Pemberton family's reputation, old money with darker secrets whispered about in elite circles. "I'll pass along your message," he says curtly and ends the call. When he looks up, Amelia is still there, having overheard enough of the conversation to understand. Her face is a mask of conflicted emotions. "That was about me, wasn't it?" she asks. Daniel nods reluctantly. Triple salary, live-in position. But Amelia, the Pembertons. He struggles with how much to reveal. Let's just say they have a reputation for expecting their staff to ignore things that shouldn't be ignored. The moral weight of the decision settles between them. For someone in Amelia's financial position, triple salary could mean everything, paying off her mother's medical debt, maybe even returning to school. But at what cost to her integrity? "I need time to think," she whispers. Meanwhile, Daniel's own professional world is about to implode. His phone rings again, this time with news that makes his blood pressure spike. Tony Mitchell has just announced a hostile takeover attempt, claiming Daniel's company is mismanaged and citing questionable business practices. As Daniel frantically calls his lawyers, trying to understand how Tony could have gathered enough insider information to make such a move, a chilling realization dawns on him. Someone within his own inner circle has been feeding Tony confidential data. The betrayal cuts deep, but there's no time to process the emotional impact. Within hours, Daniel finds himself in the conference room of his company's headquarters, facing Tony across a polished table surrounded by lawyers and board members. "You always were too trusting, Daniel," Tony says with a cold smile. "It's a weakness in business." "And you always were a snake," Daniel replies, his voice steady despite the rage building inside him. "But I didn't think even you would stoop this low." Tony leans back in his chair, supremely confident. "Market forces, my friend. Nothing personal." But Daniel can see something in Tony's eyes, a gleam of personal satisfaction that suggests this is very personal indeed. As the meeting progresses and Tony's lawyers present their case, Daniel realizes the depth of the conspiracy against him. Bank records, internal communications, strategic plans, Tony has access to information that should have been impossible to obtain. Just as Daniel thinks the situation can't get worse, his assistant bursts through the conference room doors, her face pale with panic. "Mr. Prescott, there are people at your house. Child Protective Services. They're asking questions about the baby's care, something about unsafe sleeping arrangements. The rumors, someone called and reports about the nursery." The room goes silent. Tony's smile widens, and Daniel's heart stops. The connection between his personal crisis and professional betrayal suddenly becomes crystal clear. What happened next shocked everyone, because as Daniel rushed toward the door, he realized that Amelia, the woman caught between impossible choices, might be the only person who could help him save everything he'd worked for. And she was about to make a decision that would change both their lives forever. The morning after Daniel's confrontation with Tony, the mansion feels different. Daniel paces his office, still reeling from the discovery of the embezzlement scheme, when Amelia knocks softly on the door. "Mr. Prescott? The baby's been fussy all morning." I think he senses the tension. Daniel looks up, and for the first time, he really sees her. Not just as an employee, but as someone who's been silently holding his family together. "Amelia, sit down. Please." She hesitates, then takes a seat across from his desk. "I know you've been dealing with a lot lately. If there's anything I can do to help." "Actually, there is." Daniel slides a folder across the desk. "I found something in Tony's files. Your background check, your financial records. Amelia, he was planning to use your situation against me somehow." Amelia's face pales as she opens the folder. Her past stares back at her, eviction notices, medical bills for her mother's treatment, student loan defaults. He investigated all this? The question is why? Daniel leans forward. "What aren't you telling me about that job offer from the Hendersons?" Before Amelia can answer, her phone buzzes. The caller ID makes her blood run cold. It's them. The Hendersons. "Answer it. Put it on speaker." Mrs. Henderson's voice fills the room, syrupy sweet with underlying menace. Amelia, darling, have you made your decision? We really need an answer today. I need more time to think. Well, that's unfortunate. You see, we've heard some concerning rumors about your current employment. Something about inappropriate sleeping arrangements with the children? Child Services might be very interested to hear about that. Daniel's jaw clenches. The pieces suddenly click into place. That's enough, he says, leaning toward the phone. And who might this be? Daniel Prescott. And I believe you've just made a serious mistake. The line goes quiet for a moment. Mr. Prescott, surely you understand business negotiations. What I understand is blackmail. And what you don't understand is that Amelia sleeping on the floor to comfort my son shows more maternal instinct than most people have in their entire bodies. Amelia stares at him in shock, tears brimming in her eyes. Furthermore, Daniel continues, his voice gaining strength, if I hear even a whisper of a false report to Child Services, my legal team will ensure you spend the next decade in court. Mrs. Henderson's composure cracks. You can't threaten us. That wasn't a threat. That was a promise. Daniel hangs up. The silence stretches between them until Amelia whispers, you defended me. Of course I did. What you did that night, sleeping on the floor because you thought Tommy needed comfort, do you have any idea how extraordinary that is? But before Amelia can respond, the doorbell rings. Through the window, they see an official vehicle in the driveway. Child Protective Services, Daniel reads from the card the butler brings in. They're here for an interview. Amelia's hands shake. They actually called them. Hey. Daniel places a steadying hand on her shoulder. We faced this together. You did nothing wrong. As they walk toward the front door, Amelia makes a decision that surprises even herself. Mr. Prescott, whatever happens with this investigation, I want you to know something. That job offer? I was never going to take it. This family, this house, it's become my home too. Daniel stops walking and turns to face her fully. What are you saying? I'm saying that some things are worth more than money. And what we've built here, what I have with Tommy, that's worth everything to me. The doorbell rings again, more insistently this time. As they approach the door together, Daniel's mind races with possibilities. The investigation could change everything, but looking at Amelia's determined face, he realizes something profound is about to happen. Neither of them knows that the social worker standing on their doorstep isn't there because of the Hendersons' false report, she's there because of an anonymous tip about Daniel himself, and what she's about to reveal will shake the very foundation of everything they thought they knew about each other. As the dust settles from the Child Protective Services visit, Daniel finds himself standing in his study, documents scattered across his mahogany desk. The investigation has been cleared, but something profound has shifted within him. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, he watches Amelia in the garden with little Sophie, who's now taking her first wobbly steps on the manicured lawn. She saved my company, Daniel whispers to himself, remembering how Amelia's keen observations about Tony's suspicious late-night visits had provided the missing pieces to expose the embezzlement scheme. And she saved my daughter. The memory of that night floods back with crystal clarity. When he discovered Amelia sleeping on the nursery floor, curled protectively around Sophie's crib, he'd initially felt anger. But as she explained through tears how Sophie had been running a fever and breathing irregularly, how she'd called the pediatrician and stayed close to monitor every breath, Daniel realized he wasn't witnessing negligence, he was witnessing pure, selfless love. Mr. Prescott? Amelia's voice breaks his reverie as she enters the study, Sophie giggling in her arms. You wanted to see me? Daniel's heart pounds as he turns from the window. This moment has been building for weeks, ever since he discovered the scholarship applications hidden in Amelia's room, applications to nursing school that she'd been too proud to mention, too financially strapped to pursue. Amelia, sit down. Please. His voice carries a warmth that surprises them both. I need to tell you something that's going to change everything. She settles into the leather chair, Sophie immediately reaching for the gold fountain pen on Daniel's desk. If this is about the sleeping arrangement again, I promise it was just that one time when she was sick. Stop. Daniel holds up his hand, a smile breaking across his face. You don't understand. What you did that night, what you've been doing every single day, you've shown me what real dedication looks like. What love looks like. He opens his laptop, turning the screen toward her. The Prescott Foundation website glows on the display, featuring a new scholarship program. I've been thinking about legacy, about what really matters. My money, my success, none of it means anything if I can't use it to lift others up. Amelia's eyes widen as she reads the screen. The Amelia Carter Educational Excellence Scholarship. Full tuition, living expenses, books, everything. Daniel's voice cracks with emotion. You're going to nursing school, Amelia. And when you graduate, there's a position waiting for you at Children's Hospital Los Angeles, the pediatric wing I'm funding. The silence stretches between them, broken only by Sophie's happy babbling. Tears stream down Amelia's cheeks as she struggles to process the magnitude of what's happening. I can't accept this. It's too much, Mr. Prescott. You're just what? Just the woman who sacrificed her own comfort to protect my daughter? Just the person who helped me see through Tony's deception when everyone else failed? Just the most dedicated, caring person I've ever met? Daniel's voice grows stronger with each word. Amelia, you sleeping on that floor wasn't a moment of desperation, it was a moment that revealed your true character. And it changed mine forever. Amelia stands, Sophie still in her arms, and for the first time since she started working for the Prescotts, she looks Daniel straight in the eye as an equal. You don't know what this means to me. My whole life, I've dreamed of becoming a nurse, of helping children like Sophie. But I never thought. Dreams deferred aren't dreams denied, Daniel says softly. My grandmother used to tell me that. It took you to remind me. As Amelia hugs Sophie close, Daniel sees the transformation happening before his eyes. The woman who once felt invisible in his household now radiates with possibility and hope. Her shoulders straighten, her smile brightens, and he realizes she's not just accepting his offer, she's claiming her future. 6 months later, Daniel receives a photo on his phone. It's Amelia in scrubs, her new nursing school ID badge visible, holding Sophie during her babysitting visit. The caption reads, starting clinical rotations next week. Sophie says hi to her favorite daddy. The billionaire who once measured success in stock prices and profit margins now understands true wealth. It's measured in lives changed, dreams fulfilled, and the courage to see someone's potential when they can't see it themselves. Sometimes the most profound transformations begin with the simplest acts of human decency. Sometimes a maid sleeping on the floor becomes the teacher, and the billionaire becomes the student. And sometimes, when we open our hearts to truly see each other, everyone wins. What stories of unexpected kindness have shaped your life? Share them below, because these moments of human connection remind us that we all have the power to change someone's world, one compassionate act at a time.